This is Rose Sullivan, and I am an associate professor at Westfield State University. I teach in the social work department, and this video is a tour of one of the classes that I teach at Westfield State University. The class that I'm showing today is the Human Behavior and the Social Environment class. In the social work department, we call this HBSC 1 and HBSC 2. It's a year-long course that all students in the social work major must complete. Both HBSC 1 and HBSC 2 are offered as hybrid courses at Westfield State University using the flipped classroom model. This is the first foundation course that students must take to major in social work, and most students take this course their junior year. All of our classes in the major are sequential, meaning that students cannot advance until they have completed and passed the foundation courses. There are a number of objectives for this course. They are the following: to develop the skills for self-reflection and self-correction. This is done through the readings and the essays and the discussions that students must complete, which asks them to critique their personal values and try to understand where these values come from. This process is very challenging because it asks the students to assess areas of implicit or explicit bias in their thoughts and actions. Another major objective for the course is to develop and use critical thinking skills when they assess clients and develop treatment plans. The students must learn to develop and use the skills to understand how complicated political and social systems contribute to the oppression of different groups. Another objective is to recognize different areas of social privilege, or lack thereof, and how that affects a client's functioning. And the last objective, which is a very important objective, is to learn and understand what the multidimensional framework for assessment is. That is a unique form of assessing clients to social work, and it asks the students to look through three different lenses: biological theory, psychological theory, and social theory, in trying to understand clients and how they function in the world. We're looking right now at the homepage for the class, and I have it in the view that the students see when they log in. In this example, I have all of the weeks open, but I don't ordinarily open all the weeks at once. I generally do that Monday to Monday. The first thing that you see in the Start Here folder is the syllabus. And as anyone who already teaches online knows, it is really important to try to be as clear as possible with how the material is organized, where students can find the material, and the instructions for any assignments. In my experience, if the students get confused or overwhelmed by the online portion of the class, they begin to get anxious, and then they get angry. So I try to be very clear about how things are laid out, and I try to be clear in that way to lessen their anxiety and frustration. So just really quickly, I'll click on my syllabus. Hopefully that'll illustrate what I mean by that. And so here you see the syllabus with the course description, the objectives. One of the things about any social work class is that they have to be approved by the accrediting body for social work education, and so that is why you see those numbers next to all of the course objectives. That corresponds with our certification. There is a piece about academic honesty that's very important, and I point that out to all of the students in class and online. There are the guidelines for written work, language and classroom etiquette, the non-discrimination policies, the attendance policies, and you'll note that some of the really important parts of this policy are in bold, and also issues around participation and assignment deadlines and incomplete grades. So one of the things that I have tried to do here, just based on previous experience, is make it very clear to students what's expected of them, and if they feel like they need extensions or an incomplete in the class, the process by which they have to go through to get that. The text is outlined here. What constitutes each grade is outlined here. And the various assignments, the due dates, and the percent of their final grade is here. I go on to describe more in depth the papers and assignments, and then we get into the typical syllabus week by week assignments. So that's how the syllabus is laid out. That's online for them, and it's also made clear in class. We have class every Monday, and the rest of the work is due online during the week, due the following Monday. So each class, as you can see, is broken down by weeks. There are instructions at the top of every folder, where I try to be as clear as possible about what they need to do. So following the hybrid model, the flipped classroom model rather, these instructions point out that there is no textbook reading and there are no online readings for this week 1 assignment. What hopefully is very clear to the students is that I want them to read the 2 articles that I have given to them and that are in this folder, and I want them to be ready to come to class to do an activity on these articles. So the way that I try to use the online class is to give the student the content that they need to be able to come to class and contribute something in the form of an activity or a role play or a class discussion or a group project that we do in class. I'm trying to get the lecture part of the class provided to them online to free up the in-person class that we'll have the following week. So the assignments in the course reflect the objectives that I was describing previously. There is a midterm and a final, which are computer generated and self-grading. The students will see their grade upon hitting submit. In this class, I do allow the students to have open notes and open book tests because I'm trying hopefully to really make sense of a lot of different kinds of material. The online assignments, which the students will do over the course of the hybrid class, will include video lectures with media embedded in them, a review of websites, blogs, or podcasts, small group online discussions, or journals. I use the journals for more personal communications. The students will also complete a book club with both online discussions and in-person discussions. And they will finally do an online presentation that can be disseminated in many ways. Students can track their progress in the course by reviewing their grades in the My Grades tab on the course homepage. The syllabus, again, clearly describes the percentage of each assignment, and I include a running tally of their grades in the online gradebook. Every year, I ask for student feedback, and it has always been very positive. I also ask students to send me links to websites, podcasts, or videos that they think might be relevant to the class. I usually incorporate these suggestions into future classes, generally, of course, after I've screened them. This allows the rising seniors to feel good about the fact that their suggestions are used, and the incoming juniors who will take the updated class in the next year generally benefit quite a bit from this new and additional content provided by the students from the year before. So I thought I would just also show very quickly some examples of some of these online assignments. In week 2, again, here's the instructions that we begin the week with. There are a number of links to different things I want them to learn about around infant brain development. This is an example of a lecture by me. So today's videocast is talking about early childhood, and as we talk about some of these concepts, we're going to also see a few clips. There's a lot of debate about what constitutes early childhood. So as you can see, I lecture via PowerPoint. I use Camtasia to capture the lecture, and I also like Camtasia as a tool because it allows me to take video clips from various sources or podcast clips or other kinds of media and embed it into the actual lecture itself. And so I think this does a pretty good job of mimicking what the students would do in class if we were actually doing this in class. In week 3, I think there is a good example of kind of a classic discussion board. In this discussion board, we're talking again about early childhood and attachment theory, and we're talking about the role of brain development and how we learn things. And in this discussion board, brain enrichment, it's actually more like maybe kind of a clearinghouse of information where I ask the students to find or discover free activities that any parent can do with an infant that would be helpful in developing brain activity. And I asked the students to find these things. If they can provide a link, that's even better to describe these things. And by the end of the assignment, what we have are 45 people in this class offering different suggestions for free that parents can do with young children. My hope is that in the next year, when the students go into the field, they can come back to this information, and maybe it's helpful again when they are actually working with clients directly. As I mentioned earlier, I try to use journals, perhaps for topics that might be intimidating for people to get into a large discussion post about. So for this example, in week 10, we're talking about gay, lesbian, trans identity development in adolescence. And again, there is a video lecture that provides a number of clips and other kinds of media in the actual lecture itself. And I provide a PBS documentary called Growing Up Trans. And this is a documentary that follows 4 or 5 children from maybe middle childhood age through adolescence who are identifying as transgender. And in this documentary, all of the children have very supportive families, and they're going through a medical process. And so the documentary follows them through that process. And so because I think of the sensitive nature of this topic area, I really want people to ask questions or be able to share what they're struggling with or thinking about. And so instead of doing a discussion board, I ask students to write to me directly in the form of a journal. And I give them some prompting questions that you can see there. What did you learn? What's your general reaction to the documentary? What questions do you still have? If you could ask anything, what would it be? And I also ask the students to try to consider the role of social privilege or lack thereof in these kids' lives and what's happening to them. And you can see that last statement is reminding them that this is a private communication with me, and I want them to be professional but open to ask anything. And the last major assignment in this particular class would be the book club. And you see on the left, there is a book club tab. They go to that, and again, there are instructions. They have been previously put into groups, and they need to meet and look at this PDF of book club choices, which has a number of really interesting contemporary social work related novels. And they have to follow the following instructions to complete the book club. They will eventually put that final paper into this Dropbox. The other thing that I offer in any group assignment is the opportunity for group members to grade themselves and grade each other. And generally the grades that they give have to do with being a dependable, reliable group member and sharing the work equally. And again, this is a private submission to me, so if there was a group member or members that felt as though they had to carry the group, this is their opportunity to share that with me. And then they can go ahead, obviously, and put that in that Dropbox, which goes directly to me. That ends my video tour, and I thank you for the chance to show you my course, and I am always appreciative of any feedback that anybody could offer to improve this course. Thank you.